This is your WCIA 3 forecast first.
Take a look outside on our Flooring America Bratcher weather camera. You can see a mix of sun and clouds out there. And it looks to be kind of a warm and hazy evening across central Illinois after what was a very warm day. You can see on the satellite and radar picture those clouds showing up, but the rain is still out to our west. We're not forecasting any rainfall here this evening. That will not be the case for the day tomorrow. Look at the temperatures that we've got right now. We're still into the mid-80s, 86 in Champaign, 84 degrees in Effingham. Through tonight, those temperatures staying very mild still. At 10 o'clock, we're at 73 degrees. More about those thunderstorm chances that increase over the next few days when we come back here in just a little bit, so stick around. WCIA 3 News starts right now.
Now from WCIA 3 News.
Volunteers took the afternoon to line the streets with flags, where that sea of red, white, and blue will honor a fallen officer. Plus, there's a bill backlog at the state capitol, but will anything get resolved in the final week of session?
And the CDC says you don't have to wear a mask if you've gotten the vaccine, so have you made the change?
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 6.
That was the sound of flags being put up and down the streets of Monticello for a fallen Champaign police officer. Good evening, I'm Jessica Coons.
And I'm Jennifer Roscoe. Those flags will line Officer Chris OBERHEIM's funeral procession. He was shot and killed while responding to a domestic disturbance call last week. Officer Jeffrey Creel was also shot and is recovering. 24-year-old Darian Lafayette died at the scene. WCIA 3's Bryce Beament is live from Monticello, and Bryce, an organization provided all of those flags.
That's right. The Flagman mission continues, gave about 1,000 flags for here in Monticello and about 200 more in Decatur. And people in the community came to Monticello High School to help line the streets with the flags for Officer OBERHEIM's funeral procession. Now, the officer's funeral procession will go from Bridge Street to Center Street to State Street in Monticello. Boy Scouts also put flags up all around the cemetery where OBERHEIM will be buried.
Our idea was to wrap around that family, and we're going to help that family in any way we can.
Hundreds of people from the community were here to help. Officer OBERHEIM will be laid to rest on Wednesday. In Monticello, I'm Bryce Beament, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
All right, Bryce, thank you so much. We do have some more details about that. The visitation for Officer OBERHEIM will be tomorrow at the Maranatha Assembly of God Church in Decatur. It'll run from 1 to 7 p.m. A first responder walkthrough will start at 6. The visitation is open to family, friends, invited guests, and first responders only. The funeral will be Wednesday at the church. It starts at 11 a.m. The funeral service is open to family, friends, invited guests, and first responders only. One Champaign business is helping the family of Officer OBERHEIM. Signorama is making and selling signs honoring him. They'll be donating the money to help his family with funeral costs. The yard signs cost $25 each. The owner knows OBERHEIM's wife and says it's the least he can do.
I went to high school with Amber and known the family my whole life, so we had an opportunity here to jump in and do something good for them and help really raise awareness for the police and back the blue. So that's kind of why we got into this.
Signorama's goal is to make at least 1,000 signs. You can place your order through Cash App or Venmo. We have the information on our website.
Police are investigating after a man was shot in Champaign. This happened last night near Crescent and West John. Officers say they got to the scene and then learned a 23-year-old victim had shown up at the hospital. Police say he is expected to survive. Investigators found 18 shell casings at the scene. They have not arrested anyone. A motorcyclist was seriously hurt after hitting a deer. It happened this afternoon on Route 45 between Onarga and Buckley. State police say the motorcyclist tried to miss 2 deer crossing the highway, but he hit one of them, lost control, and was thrown from the bike. They say his injuries are life-threatening. Republicans accuse Governor Pritzker of using shady tactics to skirt the Senate's confirmation process in appointing members to the Prisoner Review Board. Our Capitol Bureau Chief, Mark Maxwell, is live in Springfield. Mark, that review board decides who gets out of jail.
Now, a number of senators are wrestling with the governor's office to reassert control over confirming who and which appointees land on that prisoner review board to make those often difficult, sometimes controversial decisions. In fact, a handful of Senate Republicans rather unhappy with the number of controversial releases of 5 convicted murderers. Courts found 2 of them guilty of killing police officers back in 1967 and 1970. The other 3 were also found guilty of murder, 1 of rape in the 60s and 70s. One of them had a prison sentence of 1,000 years, now out on parole. It's sparking a political fight with 2 parts. One, the pandemic pressuring prisons to reduce their population to cut down on risk, but also now with a rise in crime, Republicans are trying to tie that back to the release of these prisoners.
Most crimes go unsolved, so the studies can never be complete. And in fact, all we can say is that at the same time people are being released from prisons, we've seen a massive spike in the increase in crime.
Senator Steve McClure acknowledging there was no direct link or any evidence suggesting that those particular parolees were accused or suspected in any current crimes. 3 Senate Republicans staged a press conference accusing Governor Pritzker of withdrawing these board appointments right before their Senate hearing was on the calendar, then only reappointing them back to the board once that window had passed. Senators describing it as a shell game to skirt Senate oversight. But tonight, a response from the governor's office saying that it's routine practice for appointees to be withdrawn so the Senate has more time to consider those appointments, and also, quote, members must be able to make parole determinations entirely independently. Said that subjecting members to political grandstanding would set a new and dangerous precedent for this constitutional function. There's only a week left to have those hearings for these 4 appointees on the board now serving without confirmation. Reporting in Springfield, Mark Maxwell.
All right, Mark, thank you. It is deadline week in Springfield. The House and Senate return to action today with a deadline to pass bills to the governor's desk by next Monday at midnight. Both chambers are scheduled to work through the holiday weekend. Some of the big items still on the agenda include this year's state budget, ethics reform, and a major overhaul of the state's energy policy.
City leaders in Urbana are already making plans for next year's budget proposal. The city has just under $13 million from the federal government as part of the American Rescue Plan. Mayor Diane Marlin says she sees that money as a short-term stimulus with long-term benefits. She says about $2 million is being used for the Equity and Quality of Life, or EQUAL project. The mayor's office will continue talking about the budget every week, and it'll be brought to City Council for approval on July 28th.
There's been a lot of new rules about masks. What you are saying about them as we get closer to fully reopening.
Also tonight.
We recreate that game, that experience.
It's the way the national pastime used to be played, where you can see vintage baseball up close and personal.
And appropriate, we've got baseball because it feels like summer.
Yeah, summertime here. The boys of summer, as they call it. Hey, the Cubs took 2 or 3 this weekend, too.
Hey, good weekend.
Got to mention that.
Go Cubbies.
Throw that in there. Some nice weather coming up here for the upcoming holiday weekend as well, which we'll talk about. Outside right now, as you see in Charleston, things pretty calm. Let's recap today with the numbers here. As you can see, it was a warm one at 87 degrees. More warmth on the way, but also that chance for showers and storms kicking in for later this week. We'll show it to you next.